Hello, everybody. Let's see. Hmm.
You may want to use that one of the two.
That's fairly horizontal. Oh, okay. So, Merry Christmas, everybody. We're let's see. It's about as good as it's gonna get. Oh, well, according to Dave, we got out just in time. Although, amazingly, over here the weather doesn't seem to be that bad.
Our climate is more clement.
A clement climate.
Yeah, we actually have a better climate than you.
Well, it's 13 in Toston right now. And it's my. I wish this thing would just stop doing everything else. Just keep the damn temperature on there. 18 here. Okay. Yeah, you guys got a lot of rain, didn't you, Lars? Did you have any more trouble at the mine, or are all your flood control measures working adequately? I heard it came down pretty hard over there in Southern California. It never rains in California. It pours. Something like that. Well, that's good. Oh, up here it's been pretty mild. I think the last couple weeks all we got is a couple light dustings of snow. That's about it. Hi, honey bunny. So when it comes to precipitation, we haven't been getting doodly, which is fine with me. Makes life a lot easier. Temperature wise, it's not bad. Oh, that was an interesting situation with the frozen door on the trailer. I've never seen that one.
You mean on?
On the camper, yeah. Um, if I didn't have my knife in my pocket, I'm not sure exactly how we'd have gotten out. I know we had the stove inside there too, so I could have probably just heated it. But I don't know, what other tools do I have. Could have maybe dug underneath the thing for the. I've got a sampling backpack there that's got chisels and a rock hammer in
I
it.
think it might be a good idea to put a small little butane torch in there.
Well, let's try not doing that again. How about that? That was pretty marginal for uh, what equipment. Yeah, windshield deicer would work. Alcohol would work. No, we didn't. We weren't going there for production, so I didn't have like the Sierra Blaster or anything like that. um, but yeah, that was kind of a unique situation I'd never run into before. Um, Also, usually when we're out in the field, to keep from overloading the little portable toilet in there, I usually just take a leak out the back door, which means that it's going to get open and closed several times overnight. So not a problem. But yeah, that it was some. Yeah, it was pretty soft, honey bunny. Um, that's far from ideal material when it comes to ground control. It's really good material for open pitting. Uh, well, too bad we're not over there, Dave. Well, as long as if it's on the floor of the thing, he can at least vacuum it up or something, and then pan it out of the vacuum. But I figured out how he can pan in the icy water that much. He uses PBR as de-icing fluid. But hello, Jean-Francois. How do you say Merry Christmas in French?
Joyeux Noël.
Joël?
Joyeux Noël.
Joyeux Noël, huh? So Noel would be Christmas. Joyous Christmas.
Joyeux Noël.
Yeah. Joyous Christmas. Yep. Yep.
Otherwise known as Feliz Navidad.
Feliz Navidad y Prospero Año Nuevo from Kanakastan's El Sur.
No. It's Feliz Navidad, Prospero Año y Felicidad.
Yeah, she's a multi-talented individual, Jean-Francois. You never know when she's going to pull something
Pourquoi pas?
out and, slap you between the eyes with it. It's pretty funny. ¿Tú no hablas español? Well, where you're at, you probably don't need too much. Anyhow, so I think that the material that we looked at looks nearly ideal for the circumstances I would like to be seeing for a disseminated low-grade deposit. Okay, I'm looking at that. It's like, wow, if you had a good permitting situation and everything, that should be real easy to mine. Hey, Rock Butcher. Santa was very good to me. Gave me Eva a long time ago. So, yes, it's a very sensitive machine. Gets real small gold. You just got to be really close to it. It's not the kind of thing where you do a lot of searching in terms of a large area. But if you've got a small area and you're searching for something real close to the surface, you can get some real small particles and get a hit on it. But that material was very soft. I looking at the video, I realized when I said it was soft, I was going to go over there and just kind of scrape the chisel or something on just to show you how soft it was, and I forgot to do that. So I apologize. And but it is pretty soft. It is not. It's not the sort of thing where you got real good ground control easily, but it's the sort of thing. I mean, you could dig that with a bobcat. That's how soft it is. A larger company would probably, drill it. But for something else, if you got the permits, you could trench it. That would be good for trenching. Chalcopyrite gets the MD20 frantic, huh? I wonder if you can tune it out. I don't know. I'm not sure. So I'm not. You could call the guy up. I mean, I talked to him a while back about mine, see about getting it fixed, and he seemed like a nice guy and was easy to talk to and stuff. So you could ask him. Chalcopyrite could have substantial gold in it, but there's no way for me to tell without doing some testing. If you wanted to get real serious about it, you could heat it, crush it a bit, heat it, let it break down, and then recrush it and then pan it. So, as I say, it's definitely a possibility. I say Dave's situation there it's not a bad situation, but your permitting costs are going to generally be high to process it on site. You could potentially look, there are patented claims nearby. You might be able to pick one of those up and use it as a mill site. It'd be premature, in my opinion, right now. You have to do a lot more sampling. And another thing, too, is since there is a mining company looking to, actually put something in production, you might be able to sell stuff to them if you wanted to. Yeah, there's no room underground at this point, honey bunny, and just digging out enough to get your room would require permitting. You might as well just dig a open pit for that. Hey, Adam. Yeah, that was a nice walleye the other day. And it was kind of funny because I was fishing out there and dragging it across, and I just caught a burbot. And so I was trying to kind of duplicate what I was doing. And I throw it out there, let it sink to the bottom, crank it in a little bit, let it sink to the bottom, and do that. And I hooked something, but because I tail hooked it, it was behaving funny to begin with. And then when I brought it in, it was laying on its back, coming in tail first, so it was very light in color. And I thought maybe it was like a white sucker or something that I just run the lure through a school of them and snagged one. And it actually took me longer than I'm proud of to figure out that's a walleye. Because I mean, I'm used to getting walleyes like this, and that thing was just an entirely new class. So it took me a little bit to, get rolled over, figured out what it was. And then at that point, I'm like, wow, this is a pain. I'm by myself. I'm on a fairly steep bank, so I can't just easily beach it or something. And it's tail hooked, so it's constantly trying to head away. If you got it hooked in the mouth, you just kind of get it close to the beach and it'll, just generally push itself right up the beach. Hey, Jason, how's it going? And that was not an option. So I just had to be real careful and patient and finally got it on there. It tasted really good. It really did.
Dang good walleye.
Yeah, sturgeon. Yeah. That's the sort of thing. Even on big tackle, you're not going to horse those in very quick at all. How does sturgeon taste, Jean-Francois? Any idea? I know usually, you get the roe out of them, to make caviar, but are the fish themselves any good to eat? I really have not the faintest idea.
We have them here.
Yeah, they do have them in the Missouri also. I kind of doubt that we have any up this far. I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked. I have no idea. If anyone knows, let me know. Jean-Francois says smoked sturgeon is a delicacy in Russia. Well, around here.
Oh, so he's one of them.
Around here, they usually smoke the rainbow trout because they're considered kind of a trash fish. He says they charge $60 a kilogram. That's pretty good money.
That's pretty cheap for a delicacy.
I don't know.
$30 a pound.
$30 a pound.
That's cheap for.
Well, he says that's for the smoked eel. Yeah, we don't have eels around here, although that burbot looked very similar to one. And
that burbot did not taste good.
And it has a smooth skin. But anyhow.
And they ain't kosher.
I say that was cool. I think I've got the urge to go out fishing again this week, but we'll see how it goes. Lauren, here's a couple updates too. Lauren had his shoulder surgery. Everything went okay. But he's now supposed to take it very, very easy on it, which is very hard for him. They used to consider yellow perch trash in Canada too, huh? Wow.
Well, I didn't purchase it.
That's pretty good fish if you can get them big enough. And
I remember what happened when you gave me that perch. I was looking forward to it.
I got to run into Jim at the gas station the other day, and he said he's been having a little trouble, you know, with illnesses. May have to do with Deb going, working at schools where you get a lot of kids, and schools are like petri dishes. But anyhow, aside from that, he's just busy, and when he's not busy, he's sick, or vice versa. Would probably be the better description. But I told him everybody was missing him and wanted to see him again. And well, maybe the water they have back there, Dave, it does taste like crap. I don't know. He even said that brown trout we caught down on the Jefferson tasted pretty good, but the rainbows are, so-so. Adam doesn't like smoked fish. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It depends on the wood used to smoke it and the type of fish.
Yeah. I like fried perch, but again, you have to get decent sized ones and fillet them to make it easy. Otherwise, you got to, kind of peel it off the bones, which is kind of annoying. I'm just not very patient. That walleye was great for that. I mean, those fillets ran 12 ounces, Huh. Jean-Francois says they had commercial perch fisheries on the St. Lawrence River. So they're a lot holding back the fishing until the stocks go back up. But I say that walleye was fine. Probably for good reason, honey bunny.
Walleye was dang good.
But anyhow,
the bourbon I found disappointing. It tasted too much like shellfish.
Yeah. And so anyhow, let's say Lauren, I'm going to be spending a lot of time over at Lauren's house, helping him get some stuff caught up. He needs some maintenance stuff done for next season, and his shoulder is in a condition and he's not supposed to do squat, which is very, very annoying to him. He's a real go-getter. That's a good question, honey bunny. But so I got a lot of stuff to do with him, but I'm going to see if I can't get in a little bit of fishing, maybe one day a week or something. I mean, once Lauren's shoulder is to a certain point, then fishing would be fine too. But it may be a couple of months before Lauren can actually fish. So we'll just have to see. Also, there's a couple that live over in the Lauren's general vicinity that raise horses, and Eva loves horses and stuff. So we may be taking her over there, and she can curry horses or something, have a good time, And so I said we got plenty of things to do. I'm going to try and, schedule in some fishing. That was fun. I'd like to kind of dial in how to fish that hole over there. Everyone says it seems to have a fair amount of walleye in it and stuff like that. So there's I say we'll see what we can do, Jean-Francois. And my goal is to make sure that Lauren doesn't screw up the surgery. He's a very energetic person. It's going to be very difficult on him to just sit around. It's not going to be his thing. Hopefully he can supervise me, and that'll be busy enough that it'll take care of his jitters. But another thing that may work out well, Lauren was saying that in similar type situations, he's fished with a terminal weight on the end, a hook about 6 to 12 inches above it, and then a float to hold it up off the bottom. And he says that seems to work pretty good for the walleye also. Merry Christmas to you, Tricky Dicky.
Merry Christmas.
He had to
Tricky.
have his shoulder rebuilt, basically.
Kiss the babies.
There was tendon damage and things like that. And they said, at the moment we can rebuild it the way it is, but you mess it up anymore and we're just going to have to basically replace it. So that's...
He's got to kiss the babies for us.
Yeah, Tricky. Eva says you must kiss the babies. It's a requirement.
Wish all those
The frozen door.
Wish all those children Merry Christmas.
The frozen door opening technique. Where is it? There it is. Was basically taking my miscellaneous knife and starting in the door crack between the door and the jamb and working it up and breaking the ice and everything. Tricky says done. And eventually I got it to where it was loose and I could open it. Then slammed it a couple times and broke everything loose and no problem. But yes, if I hadn't had this, it would have been... I've had to come up with something else because there is no opening in that trailer big enough for me to crawl out of except the door. So I say that was kind of interesting. I say we had a camp stove in there that we could have used in that way. It would have worked, honey bunny. Covalite will sing on a metal detector, huh? Is that Covalite? Is that a copper sulfide? If I recall right, it's not actually. Chalcopyrite is copper iron sulfide. Yeah, we part of the problem is the propane tank for the heater is outside. It's a 10-gallon tank, and it was at like 0 degrees, so the pressure was less than ideal. And so it was, the colder it got outside, the less heat we had available to us. So we had a stove inside so we could turn it on intermittently. When things started getting cold, we'd heat it up and then turn it back off again. And let's see what Covalite is. Copper sulfide. Yeah, I was right. CUS. But anyhow, so that was how we made it through. Now, even with that, we did have a sleeping bag in us, a good sleeping bag that we could have used as an extra comforter to crawl under. So we were in no danger. Yeah, exactly, Jean-Francois. Plus, there's no real room for a 10-gallon tank inside. That's why it's right outside on the back there. But say it was just one of those things that, plan A isn't working ideal. Time to go to plan B. Say we had an emergency backup plan with that sleeping bag. We could, we were in no danger. We're just trying to be covered. Plus, Eva doesn't sleep with clothes very well. I don't know why, but even like the socks, she's got to take her socks off. I don't care. I can sleep in clothes, so I don't have a problem in those sort of situations. With her, we got to keep it a little warmer. So anyhow, it wasn't terribly uncomfortable for her. Things went okay. And then, the next day we finished up what we were doing and came on home. Yeah, so Eva can't do that. So that's a problem. I don't have problems sleeping in my thermal underwear and t-shirt. And actually, had thermal underwear, socks, regular underwear, t-shirt, and a long sleeve shirt. That's what I was sleeping in. No problem. It just doesn't work well for Eva. So, you know, you do what you got to do. But as I say, we did have a big, thick sleeping bag we could have used. No, bad grammar, Jean-Francois, has to sleep with no clothes on. Okay. So, as I say, it was kind of an interesting situation. We've never been in the field at that low a temperature before. We've been below freezing, but not down near zero. And we were probably in the range of, at that elevation, 0 to 10 degrees. So it was very unusual for us to be out in the field. And if you're in a sleeping bag, it's not bad. If you don't have a lot of layering, it's tough, honey bunny. But yeah, and so we did that because it was a new location. Dave really wanted us to take a look at it. The weather was reasonable. Yeah, good idea, Jean-Francois. And so we thought, okay, we're going to get that window and go out there. It'll give us a chance to get a little more feel. Eva likes being out there where there's, out in the middle of nowhere. So that's cool. Any Boy Scouts in our area? I presume there are.
Well, we bought things from Scout Troops before.
No, that's right. We were at Walmart and they were raising money just not long ago, right?
Yeah, and then we were at Bob's and they were selling popcorn, so we donated money.
Bob's. Okay, yeah.
Out there in Lincoln.
I know what you're talking about now. I'm getting old, little one.
The fried gizzard.
Yep. So, as I say, it was one of those things where we really weren't pushing things we didn't think that it was going to be as cold as it was. We thought it'd be kind of like just a normal cold, but it was colder than we've been in before. But that was not the anticipation. During the days, it wasn't bad. The first day, it was kind of cold and windy. Second day was actually quite pleasant. Hey, Tricky, I usually just throw a little flammable liquid on the tinder. Oh, yeah, when I was a Boy Scout, we just we preferred to just use something a little more overwhelming instead of a lot of nuance and precision and technique. But I say it was a fun trip, and we got a good look at it. We were able to give him a lot of information that he can use to continue from where he's at right now. And I'd say it was a very productive trip. It's an interesting location, and I'll say if I had a claim like that, I'd be pretty happy because that stuff it looks potentially amenable to easy processing, and there are some reasonably good grades in there. Are they where they can see everything, Tricky? If they are, I'll have Eva come over here and we'll sing Merry Christmas. I know that Happy Birthday to you. Is there a Merry Christmas song?
No, but I don't think there's a songs that will work. There is.
Okay, come on over here, little one. He says, yes, they can see. Yeah, Eva actually uses bread bags, from loaves of
Merry
bread.
Christmas, kids.
Oh, anyhow,
Merry,
Christmas
Merry.
to Richard and all his kids. And I hope you guys are doing well and you guys have a wonderful Christmas. And Jean-Francois says, hello, Eva.
Hello, Jean-Francois.
We watched Miracle on 34th Street and It's a Wonderful Life so far. We'll probably see something else. Dave says, hi, Eva.
Hi.
So we're giving our tear ducts a break. No problem, Tricky. So we'll probably watch something. And then tomorrow I'll be heading out to Lawrence fairly early and, getting started on stuff there. And we'll play it by ear from that point. There's really not much to be done mining wise this winter. Certainly nothing urgent. And I've got some construction that'll probably be about 1 day a week on average. That'll give us a little extra money. We're not hurting or anything for money, nothing like that. But it's nice to have a little extra, especially in uncertain times. So I should be quite busy through the winter, which is important for me. I don't do sitting around well. Plus, my right hip now is starting to get really annoyed at doing a lot of sitting. So that's the sort of situation where I prefer to avoid. And so I'm grateful for the fact there's lots of things for me to do. That's an interesting name for it, Tricky Dicky. You be very careful. We don't want you to suddenly disappear from the live stream. Okay? But you just, as I say, be very careful and don't let anything get the better of your good judgment. Okay? But so that's the situation here. It's a little hard to do that remotely like this, but they make a variety of ways of doing things in really bad ground too. There's a material called raise liner, which is similar to sectional culvert. They're corrugated steel sections that bolt together. And so you can start at surface, dig a little bit of a hole, bolt a ring together, attach it to surface so it can't sink, and then you dig out underneath that and bolt it on and work your way down. And you're basically building a steel pipe as you go. So it's very solid ground support. And that's something the miners in your area should be very well versed in how to dig through that ground with that kind of water and those soils and all that other stuff using native materials. You should be able to, as I find someone fairly easily that has the skills you need and the knowledge you need to basically do whatever you need to do to get there safely. Hopefully it should be pretty standard stuff, but some of the things you're dealing with may get very unstandard, even in just the way of ground support. And certain other things, it's definitely far from standard. But let's say there's been a lot of mining in the Philippines for a long time. And so let's say you definitely got local expertise that has had a lot of experience dealing with those conditions, with those materials. Well, that would be good. not to have a water problem. If you're going horizontally, you can pretty much do solid timber sets, or you can even use spiling. Okay, with spiling, what you do, let's say here's your hillside, and it's very loose material. So you start, taking your divot out, so to speak. Then you start your timber set, first timber set here, another one right there. And then you take your lagging, lay it up here, and drive it forward a little bit, dig out in front of it, drive it forward, dig out in front of it. And once you got enough room to put in your next timber set, you put it in underneath the lagging, and you just keep hammering it in. Once you get far enough in, if here's the timber set and here's your last location where your lagging is, you push this up a little bit. So it's about like this. Put a new one in and start driving it forward. And it's kind of slow, but you can get through some extremely loose ground that way. I mean, you can dig through sand like that if you have to. Yep. Well, you can also make walls as you go too. You can drive the spiling on the sides as well as the back. So you just, keep pushing stuff, the lagging ahead of you, so that you've got good ground control. Good point, Jeff. Tricky Dicky mentioned they're going after their first unicorn egg, and somebody says, I don't know, I didn't know unicorns had eggs. And Jeff goes, you got me thinking the unicorn horn is to break out of the egg, because if the mama carries a little one like most mamas, she would get poked on the inside.
Please tell me that these people are only joking. Everyone knows unicorns don't have horns when they're born.
I don't know.
Just like Dalmatians are born without spots.
You've been informed.
Jeez.
I sent a card to one of my family about crazy people and how it's pretty natural for our family. Oh, I forgot to call Devin too. It's going to be a little late tonight. Devin, if you're watching, I love you. You take care. That's my grandson. Proud of you.
Speak for yourself, dude. Some of us are not crazy.
I don't think it's a symptom of gold poisoning, honey bunny. I think it's gold fever that causes insanity. So anyhow, that's what I did on my Christmas vacation. See, anything else in particular? Not that I can think of. Gold chicken and egg riddle. Yeah. So did the homework today like earlier is. So now you're going down someone else's. Hi, John. Yeah. And I say he's visited us a couple of times here in Helena. He lives close by, in Butte. And so, he brought us some samples that I did some panning on and a few other things. And he wanted us to go down and visit his location, but we've been too busy to be able to take a few days off and go down there. And now that everything else is just frozen in, so to speak, and the weather broke for a bit, we thought, wow, we can probably, pull this one off, which we did. And it worked out all right. It's an interesting location. As you can see, there doesn't appear to be a highly defined contiguous mineralized zone. It's a mess, which in one way is a bad thing because it makes it hard to follow the high grade, but in another way it makes it potentially really good because it means the gold is everywhere. And just trying to get try and find some reasonable pockets of good enough grade for Dave to have an interesting time mining it on a hobby basis. He's not looking to make it into a necessarily profitable mine, but he just likes doing it. So it was nice going in there and giving him some input and showing him some of the techniques and stuff. I've got 11 likes now with 15 people watching at the moment. So let's see. Well, I would agree, but it's not important to him. And everyone has their own motivations. And if he's getting what he wants out of it, that's fine. If later on he wants to sell it or whatever, then that's, will be up to him. The more information you have, the more options you have. But I was favorably impressed with the possibility of him having a disseminated deposit. I'm not sure specifically the characteristics of a quote unquote bonanza style deposit, but it literally could be the very, very tip of a very large iceberg. It's that sort of situation where it looks like, that it could be widely disseminated, and the grades of all the samples he's had assayed so far are all at or above open pit heap leach grade, with the average well above kind of the average large open pit. So I think it's got, very interesting potential at this point. And he's got a lot of sampling to do and things like that before, getting wildly excited. But it was a very interesting prospect. There may be something similar in some ways at top of the hill, but I definitely don't see that over there at Montana B. There may be dissemination, but it doesn't have that kind of widespread alteration or fracturing at Montana B. Top of the hill, I don't know what's going on there yet, but there's a lot of fracturing in different directions and stuff, and we'll see. That's pretty hilarious, Jeff. That sounds about right. According to Jeff, if you're hobby mining, you have to declare your profits, but you can't write off your expenses.
Yeah. Unless you start a company and then you run it as a small business, and you profit 3 years out of 5.
Yeah.
Then it's no longer a profitable hobby.
Yep. But we can definitely turn it into an unprofitable hobby real quick. That's like me getting my health insurance. What do you have to do to qualify for Medicaid? Make less than $1,600 for 1 month? I can do that. That's an easy goal to accomplish. I like goals that are that easy to accomplish. Minimal effort involved. Just don't declare anything. Until you sell it, you didn't make a profit at all. I mean, in the case of the mining up here in Montana, if we were to hit a pocket of 10 ounce to the ton gravity recoverable gold, and we were just stacking up money, gold hand over fist, we could just pile it up and not even declare it.
Well, if you get yourself a business license, you want to sell just enough yearly to pay your expenses and show a very small profit 3 years out of 5.
Yeah. Well, or just a little profit each year.
Yeah.
And that's what you can do. If you're making a lot more gold than you need to pay your bills, you just only sell what you need to pay the bills. You can make it a very, very small profit very, very easily. It can be done. So I say we shall see what we shall see. And Eva is going to be telling us a story starting in about 50. Interesting. Let's see. Where's that one?
17 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. In about 17 minutes. I think it's a true story. It's pretty hilarious. It's a Christmas story. So I thought I'd just give you a heads up on that. In the United States, the government has that authority supposedly. Okay. And yeah, they can basically say, no, that's not a business because you didn't make enough profit. And get rid of your tax deductions. Oh, yeah. Yeah, the IRS is quite the racket. Yeah, I like, and here's another question. If a person keeps no records and then they come and say, well, how much did you make? And you go, I don't know. Is there a problem with that? I have no idea. I don't have any records. Does anyone know how that works? I think the IRS just creates an assumed income. I'm not joking. They say from our information, we think you made at least this much money.
That's exactly what
and do. Here's how much tax you owe. And if you don't have any records to contradict us, that's your legal
That's exactly what they do. They look at other businesses the same size as yours in the same industry sector and area, and they take an average.
Anybody says, I lost that rock in a boating accident. Oh, that's good. I like that. The tragic boating accident. Oh. Yep, exactly. I don't know. It's hard to testify to something that you really don't know. Good luck with that one. You're in a sand and gravel operation. Yep. Honey Bunny likes Sergeant Schultz. I know nothing. I hear nothing. I see nothing. Yep. Anyhow, so that's kind of where we're at right now. What are the treasure hunting laws in the USA? I think it varies from state to state.
Yeah, and the ones on water are different than the ones on land.
You mean like in the oceans or in lakes? Any idea, little one?
I think they use the same laws in lakes that they do in the ocean.
Might be. I would imagine the federal government only has actual authority over navigable waters.
Yeah.
But of course, they try and say that a ephemeral pond is a navigable water, according to them.
These are the same people that tax rain, okay?
Yeah.
They have actually tried to tax rain.
Well, they've tried to fine people for rainfall on their property.
And they've tried to fine people for collecting rainwater without a permit.
Yep. It's ridiculous. But anyhow, if anyone happens to know for sure what the treasure hunting laws are, let's see. Treasure.
If you don't declare it.
Hold on. Hunting tax law USA. Let's see what we got here.
If you don't declare shit, they
According to federal tax law, when you discover lost or abandoned property, you must pay tax on the income earned by the property as it was worth the same as the tax in the first year you owned it.
Yep.
Now, does that mean when you first get it, that year you have to assume a value as if you sold it the first year?
Something along those
Or
lines.
if you sold it later. This is an interesting technical question. Let's see if we can get a little more answers on this.
It's bad news either way. They steal like 3/4 of it.
Geez, could you just slow down the scrolling?
I think they steal even more than they steal if you win a lottery.
A couple in California discovered $10 million in gold coins hidden on their property. Cesare versus the United States was a game changer in determining the tax treatment of gross income. If you want to use a gold strike to help you balance your budget, you have several options for achieving your objections. How much does the government take if you find treasure? Buried treasures are treasure that has been buried. Wow. According to federal income tax records, the unidentified California couple who discovered the gold coins in their backyard could face federal income tax at 39.6%.
Yeah, so it's much or more than your average lottery.
Are you allowed to keep a treasure? The Archaeological Resources Protection Act of 1979 that any archaeological resources discovered on state land are to be handled by the state. Okay. The finder of the found property is entitled to keep it unless the original owner claims it, because actually, unless the original owner claims it, the rule is finders keepers. And treasure troves are exempt from this rule. Well, what does that mean? Something that somebody buried intending to come back and get it?
I believe so.
If you find buried treasure on your property, you should contact your local law enforcement agency to have them come out and investigate. Okay, I'm better now. If the treasure is determined to be real, then you may be able to keep it or be compensated for it. The term treasure trove refers to objects that are more than 100 years old and cannot be traced to their individual owners. The term is defined by the French trésor trouvé, which translates as found treasure in English. A treasure can be discovered anywhere where humans have worked. Ancient Roman law permitted possessors of discovered treasures on one's own land. However, the treasures had to be shared among landowners. Finders are often treated very differently in the United Kingdom than in other countries. In the event of a treasure sale, museums have a preemptive right to buy it. Scotland. Treasure trove laws are applicable only to coins and other precious metal objects. When you discover something you think is an archaeological treasure and are unsure whether or not it is, best to report to the police. Police will take it in custody and handle it as any other lost property. Again, I laugh upon this. Tricky says tax on declared treasure here is 25%. In the Philippines, any hidden or buried treasure found belongs to the landowner. If the land is owned by the government or is offshore, then you need a treasure hunting license. Oh, that's another thing. We're doing a little testing of my pistol while we were out there, and Dave brought me some 44 mag semi wad cutters, and it's kind of interesting. This is a Winchester 357 44 Magnum round nose soft point fired through wood. This is a 44 Magnum solid lead semi wad cutter fired through wood. Almost no deformation. This is a pretty hard lead thing. Perhaps good for bears because it'll penetrate bear skulls and stuff. I don't know. But I'm looking to the 44 Magnum here are accurate and powerful, but they're a little much for close range self-defense. So I'm looking for a 44 special load that gives more consistent accuracy than what I had, which is the Hornady critical defense. They weren't working too well. So I say it's interesting what's going on. Also, I need to clean my pistol because we had some misfires, and I accept the possibility that the gun needs a little cleaning. These were production ammunition. Lauren's hypothesis is Mexican lead, and it's not pure lead. It's just kind of scrap lead. So it can have all kinds of stuff in it, which tends to make it harder. This one here I find is interesting because it evidently, I'd say, hit another bullet that was in the wood. Because see how little distortion there is here? And yet that side was completely sheared off. So my guess is it hit something like that. You know? So I say it was interesting. We're using scraps of timbers that Dave had cut off to get them the right length. And so we fired a lot of bullets. And it's good because I'd like to have everything fully tuned up, considering who knows what's going to happen in the near future. So I want to get very comfortable carrying.
Do you want me to start earlier, or do you want to stay?
Oh no, you can wait for another 5 minutes if you need.
Okay. No, I was just asking because I'm not doing anything right now.
You take care, Tricky. You might want to replay this starting in 5 minutes to get the story Eva reads. It is pretty hilarious. It's a true story. It's a Christmas story. It's a government story. It's a historical story. You know the end. You don't know the beginning, probably. Damn, you're a lot better than me, I bet you, John.
Did you want to guess?
No, he said he's got he used to shoot competition, 70,000 rounds per year. Wow. That's a lot of lead heading down range. Let's say it was pretty interesting. The Hornaday Critical Defense mushroom just fine. Jean-Francois says, anyone in the U.S. can get large rifle primers? I haven't seen any here in Canada for 3+ years. I have no idea. Somebody? Anyone trying to get large rifle primers in the last little bit? Is government Santa Claus or the Grinch? If the Grinch was a really bad person, the Grinch, instead of just misunderstood and a bit grumpy, but actually evil, I go for the Grinch. Pretending to be Santa Claus. Didn't the Grinch do that? Didn't he pretend?
Oh, yes, he did.
To be Santa Claus?
Watching it later tonight.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. Yep. Very Grinch-like. Pretending to be Santa Claus, but taking everything you got. Oh, let me see. Large rifle primers. Large rifle primers for sale. Primers, large rifle, bulk primers, large rifle, AmmoSeek 2023. Let's see what they got. Gen-X, $98 for 1,000 count. Free ammo can. It looks like they're available here in the United States.
But you probably couldn't ship them to Canada.
Yeah.
They'd have a paper.
Very difficult to import them. Lots of paperwork, huh? Unless you go shop in the U.S. in person and bring them over the border. Then as a non-commercial, you can bring some in. Huh. Yeah, you may be forced to do that, or when your friends are visiting or whatever. That's what happens when you give away your rights. Oh, there she is. So anyhow, Tricky, here's the funny story.
Hi, everybody. Observe the new baseball cap. I have to have bling. You know how that goes. So, hi, honey bunny. Yeah. Well, Jean-Francois, did you expect anything else? Okay. Shiny indeed. Mine. Oh, Jean-Francois, I'm going to switch to the tinfoil one after I read this heartwarming and humorous Christmas story, which is actually true. And it concerns something that everybody probably knows about, but nobody knows why it happens. Okay? The Santa Colonel. How one Air Force officer turned a Sears ad typo, yes, you heard that right, into a holiday tradition. In 1955, Air Force Colonel Harry Shoup had a very important job. It was the height of the Cold War, and Shoup was working at the Continental Air Defense Command, now known as the North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD. One December day, his phone rang, but it wasn't his regular phone. It was the red phone, the phone that had a number so secret only he and a 4-star general at the Pentagon knew of its existence. When he answered the phone, a child was on the other end. Is this Santa Claus? The child asked. Shoup, according to his children, Terry Van Kuren, Rick Shoup, and Pam Farrell, was initially surprised and annoyed. But when the child began to cry, he quickly changed his tone. Who, he said, and asked the child whether he'd been good and asked to speak to a parent. NPR reported his children remember Shoop as straight-laced and disciplined and no nonsense, and he was annoyed and upset by the call and thought it was a joke. But then, Terry says, that little voice started crying, and Dad realized it wasn't a joke, her sister said. So he talked to him, ho, asked if he'd been a good boy, and said, may I talk to your mother? And the mother got on and said, you haven't seen the paper yet? There's a phone number to call Santa. It's in the Sears ad. Yes, Sears and Roebuck, department store, made really thick catalogs that made great toilet paper in outhouses. Ask me how I know. Okay. Dad looked it up, and there it was. His red phone number. And they had children calling one after another, so he put a couple of airmen on the phone to act like Santa Claus. It got to be a big joke at the command center. The old man really flipped his lid this time. We're answering Santa calls, Terry says. The joke took another turn when on Christmas Eve that year, several of the airmen under Shoop's command drew a sleigh and 8 reindeer on the glass board they normally use to track the paths of airplanes over U.S. and Canadian airspace. According to Terry, Shoop saw the drawing and said, what the hell is that? The airman said it was just a joke, apologized, and offered to take it down. Dad looked at it for a while, and next thing you know, he'd called the radio station and said, this is the commander at Combat Alert Center, and we have an unidentified flying object. Why, it looks like a sleigh. Well, the radio stations would call him like every hour and say, where's Santa now? Terry said. And later in life, he got letters from all over the world, people saying, thank you, Colonel, for having, a sense of humor. And in his 90s, he would carry those letters around with him in a briefcase that had a lock on it, like it was top secret information. He was an important guy, but this is the thing he's known for, and it's probably the thing he was the proudest of, too, her brother agreed. In the years since, NORAD has embraced the tradition. Call centers are operational, and children can call from all over the world to see where Santa is as he makes his grand journey delivering gifts around in a single night. There's even an official Twitter, X, formerly known as Twitter, account at NORAD Santa that posts updates and videos throughout the day. But that is how NORAD ended up tracking Santa Claus. This kind of shit could only happen to our government, where a top secret red phone number would end up a typo in a Sears and Roebuck ad. Just saying. And in other government news, the post office redeemed themselves at the absolute last minute after we shelled out big bucks to get absolutely positively guaranteed overnight delivery Christmas Eve for my son Ryan's t-shirt. It actually got there, so they didn't have to refund my money. This is after this t-shirt had arrived in Los Angeles 11 days before Christmas, made it to Billings 10 days before Christmas, then ended up in Louisville, Kentucky, and languished in Louisville, Kentucky until 5 days before Christmas. Then it landed back in Billings, and then it went to Great Falls, and then it came to Helena, and then we paid $32 to get it overnight to Boston. And by golly, it made it.
Don't describe it, just show it.
I'm not going to show them Ryan's picture. That's Ryan. I will describe it, though. It's a very, very big, very dark gray t-shirt, and it says, look at me being all festive and shit with a little itty bitty Christmas tree. Totally cool. Anyway, bye-bye. Tinfoil hat, be back in a minute.
Anyhow, I thought that was a pretty hilarious story. So I thought it would be good for a little addition.
Oh, there they go.
Anyhow, so did you guys like the story? I saw almost nothing on being typed in at that time. Yep. I thought that was a pretty cool story.
33 trillion.
Your toes are cold. Well, wrap a heating pad around them or something. Take care, Tricky.
We have updated the magic number.
Oh, what do we got here?
We went from 467 to 602 since 6 p.m.
Okay, so in a little over an hour, another $200 million, no, 150 million has been added to the national debt, huh?
Something like that.
Yep. So
look at how fast the last 100,000, the last 6 digits are flying. That's why I put arrows.
Yep.
Hi, everybody.
Oh. So anyhow.
Well, did you want the goddess to talk?
Are you ready?
Yes,
okay. Good.
Eesh. Egypt man.
John Francois wants you to publish the per capita and per significant taxpayer dollar value. It's easier to put the number in perspective.
Well, the debt per citizen is $100,000 and $100,976. The debt per taxpayer, note the difference there, $259,949. But that's because less than half of America pays taxes. You know, taxes are just, well, I'm sure everybody pays
last century.
I'm sure everybody pays their fair share. The goddess can tell you that the top 5% pay 85% of the taxes. So the goddess assumes that's a fair share. Rather funny, though. U.S. claims huge chunk of seabed amid strategic push for resources. The U.S. extended its claims on the ocean floor by an area twice the size of California, securing its rights to potentially resource-rich seabeds at a time when Washington is ramping up efforts to safeguard supplies of mineral keys to future technology. The so-called extended continental shelf covers about 1 million square kilometers, predominantly in the Arctic and Bering Sea, an area of increasing strategic importance where Canada and Russia also have claims. The U.S. has also declared the shelf's boundaries in the Atlantic, the Pacific, and the Gulf of Mexico. The long-awaited announcement earlier this week maps the outer reaches of the U.S. continental shelf, the country's land territory under the sea. Under international law, countries have economic rights to natural resources on and under the seabed floor based on the boundaries of their continental shelves. Okay, wow. That doesn't look good. Yeah. I don't think people are going to be happy about this one. Anyway, there's a map, and the map looks very troubling.
Why?
Well, the Bering Sea part of things, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but the Bering Sea part of things that they're claiming now is a whole lot more than there used to be. And further down, as you can see, they kind of like, well, let's just say they're being very optimistic when it comes to the Gulf of Mexico and an extended area around the Mariana Islands. Yeah. Just saying. Just really weird. It's a huge deal because it's a huge amount of territory, said Rebecca Pincus, director of the Polar Institute at the Wilson Center in Washington. There's notes up here on the screen, Amy, which has devoted an entire webpage to the ramifications of this week's news. It is U.S. sovereignty over the seabed floor. So whether it's seabed mining or oil and gas leasing or cables or what have you, the U.S. is announcing the borders of the ECS and will have sovereignty over those decisions. The U.S. State Department said the development is about geography, not resources. Really now. The U.S., like all countries, has an inherent interest in knowing and declaring to others the extent of its ECS and thus where it is entitled to exercise sovereign rights, it said in an emailed response to questions. Continued mapping and exploration will be needed to understand the area's habitats, ecosystems, biodiversity, and resources, it added. We'll get back to that in a minute, but you might want to remember that thing because there's another ominous piece of news that you brought up and saved somewhere that you have to find on the computer for me.
What?
About what the federal government has in the Federal Register about the environmental thingy. Remember? Anyway, he's looking for it right now. Okay. While it's unclear what materials, if any, can be exploited, the claims come as Washington seeks to boost access to so-called critical minerals that are necessary for electrical vehicle batteries and renewable energy projects. Industries the Biden administration has tagged as key national security concerns. Yeah, right. Meanwhile, there are competing calls to protect the fragile Arctic environment, the fastest warming part of the planet, as climate change opens up the region to potential development. The U.S. continental shelf contains 50 hard minerals, including lithium and tellurium, and 16 rare earth elements. James Kraska, chair and professor of the International Maritime Law at the U.S. Naval War College, wrote in an article this week. The extension highlights American strategic interests in securing these hard minerals on the seabed and subsoil, lying sometimes hundreds of miles offshore, he wrote. The most recent assessment by the U.S. Geological Survey conducted in 2008 estimated about 90 billion with a B barrels of undiscovered oil and 1,670 trillion with a T cubic feet of gas lie out inside the Arctic Circle, along with critical metals needed for electrification. Really now. However, most of that estimate is based on land studies, and the offshore potential is largely unexplored. More than half of America's extended continental shelf, 520,400 square kilometers, stretches in a large wedge north of Alaska toward the Arctic Ocean, including an area that overlaps with Canadian claims to the seabed floor, according to a U.S. statement. Another 176,300 square kilometers lies in the Bering Sea between Alaska and Russia, but falls on the U.S. side of the maritime boundary between the two countries. Canada and the U.S. don't have a maritime boundary agreement in the Arctic, and establishing the U.S. outer limits in the Arctic will depend on delimitation with Canada, the State Department said in its executive summary. Canada's Ministry of Foreign Affairs didn't respond to a request for comment. The law of the sea. The 1982 United States Convention on the Law of the Sea, which the U.S. never ratified, really now, governs maritime zones around countries. Under the law, countries have a right to any resources in the sea or seabed floor within their so-called exclusive economic zones. Something Dude and I were discussing the other day vis-a-vis the natural gas fields off the coast of Israel, as a matter of fact, which can stretch up to 200 nautical miles off the coast. But beyond that, they can claim economic rights to resources on or below the seabed floor where their continental shelf extends, although not within the water column. How odd.
Can't find it.
The seas above also remain international waters. It's in the Federal Register somewhere, I believe, but I'm sure you saved it, didn't you?
Okay, save it where? I can't find it. That's what I'm telling you.
Oh dear, I hope it hasn't been memory hold again. Well, I can tell you some of what's going on.
Where was it? Was it on Treehouse or what?
It may well have been on Treehouse.
Because I thought I started.
The seas above also remain international waters. Russia, Denmark, and Canada have waited years for their overlapping Arctic seabed claims to be reviewed by the Commission on the Limits of the Continental Shelf, a UN-supported group, with Russia the first to receive a ruling earlier this year. The State Department said in its response to questions, the U.S. would need to establish a maritime boundaries in the future with Canada, the Bahamas, and Japan, where their claims overlap. It added the U.S. uses the same rules to determine its extended continental shelf as in UNCLOS, which is said the Biden administration supports joining. The decision to unilaterally delineate its continental shelf boundary rather than ratify UNCLOS, then submit a claim through the commission, may raise the ire of other countries. Really now, said Pincus at the Wilson Center. I think a lot of other countries around the world are going to have thoughts about how the U.S. has done this. She said, it may also reduce the likelihood of the U.S. ever ratifying the law, since a major reason for doing so would have been to make a CLCS plan. Quite interesting, this. While the bear is still looking for what he was discussing with me the other day, I'll give you basically a slight rundown on the issue. There's some really, really serious, potentially super, super bad wrinkles coming up in the matter of land status and the use of public lands in the United States. Okay? Now, as it stands right now, the Bureau of Land Management, the U.S. Forest Service, the Department of Interior is this big umbrella thing that deals with so-called public lands. It should be noted that back when the National Park System was founded by a constitutional amendment, I believe it was, don't remember the number off the top of my head.
No, it was a law. It wasn't constitutional amendment, not national parks. Teddy Roosevelt started that.
Well, there was indeed a constitutional amendment pertaining to this stuff, I believe. But anyway, back when the National Park Service, Department of Interior, and all that was formed, the ostensible goal of this land grab that was entirely unconstitutional in the first place was that the government would steward the public lands that they had extorted from states as part of states being allowed to become states, for the general use and enjoyment and multi-use of all American people and tourists. Okay? The National Park System was formed because government people went around and looked at the best and brightest scenery in a whole bunch of different states and said, oh, this is world-class freaking scenery, so we're going to build a park here, like the Grand Canyon and Yellowstone and Yosemite, and a new one, the New River Gorge, that just became a national park in 2020 in West Virginia. They were all chosen because they showed the best and brightest of the beauty and the complexity of America as a continent, okay? The goal of these things, ostensibly, the national parks, they were to be developed so that people from everywhere could come and have full use and enjoyment of them. You're going to want to remember that for a minute. The other public lands that were never supposed to exist in the first place were supposed to be in the stewardship of the Department of Interior, and through Bureau of Land Management and Forest Service, American citizens would be able to have multi-use of these places. This is where mines came into play, and logging rights and open range and all this lovely stuff, and drilling for oil, etc., etc. Well, of course, considering that none of this was supposed to happen in the first place, it's rather surprising that it went along fairly well for as long as it did. However, it all started going downhill coincidentally right around 1913 to 1916. And if you don't know the significance of that particular period of time, start reading your history because the whole world changed, not just the US. You got to go back and look at the first 20 years of the 1900s and see what probably happened in your countries if you happen not to be American. Well, at any rate, things have been going downhill progressively ever since. And of course, each successive progressive administration, more and more restraints have been put on the multi use aspect of this thing that was going on here. Okay. Then things really ramped up after the Vietnam War because coincidentally, with the Vietnam War, our government decided that you could get an exemption from the draft if you trained to become a teacher. Funny enough, a whole lot of people that happened to be in the classroom up to that point were sane, patriotic type Americans. Many of them decided to go fight for their country, whether they agreed with Vietnam or not. And actual Marxists, remember those, the cultural Marxist, hippy dippy leftist crowd there? They actually were absolutely counseling that young cultural Marxists, nihilists, anarchists, etc., get into a college and get a Gen Ed degree and become a teacher anywhere they could as a means of avoiding the Vietnam War. Now, some of us, I know you're never going to believe this, so you better be sitting down. The goddess was in school during this period of time. The goddess was in elementary school, and she remembers that period of time starting about 72, 73, when all of a sudden, all the nice older teachers were disappearing and being replaced with weird younger teachers that were not very good teachers.
This is it right here.
Okay. At the same time, the other thing that the hippy-dippy leftist cultural Marxist crowd was talking about was, since all the people who actually were reasonably good public servants were off actually doing war things, this was a good time for people to start making inroads into government agencies, getting any position with the federal government that they could get hired for. Janitor, mailroom, whatever, didn't matter. And now, fast forward to the present time. At the present time, there are subreddits on Reddit. There are forums all over the internet teaching radical leftists and anarchists even, and Antifa types, how to get hired in federal agencies like the BLM and the U.S. Forest Service and the Department of Interior and the Department of Agriculture and all these other little jobs, okay? And the people, the bright-eyed hippy-dippy types that first started this great trend back in the 70s, well, a whole lot of them are now the people in charge. And what happened here is what I'm about to read to you under the new public lands rules from the Bureau of Land Management, no less. The public lands rule would establish a framework. Always a dangerous thing with these people. Framework means bad regulations. To ensure healthy landscapes, abundant wildlife habitats, clean water, and balanced decision-making on our nation's public lands. It has been proposed at a pivotal moment as our public lands face new and growing challenges. Climate change is driving unprecedented drought and increasingly intense fires and a loss of wildlife and an influx of invasive species. At the same time,
public lands face growing pressures as recreation increases and development on private land disrupts habitat. Okay, so before we go any further, we're going to break that down right there. Let's see. Increasingly intense fires. Well, at least on Forest Service land, a little thing like refusing to do active management has a whole lot to do with that, okay? A loss of wildlife. And again, increasingly on Forest Service land, National Park Service land, and Bureau of Land Management land, not having proper wildlife management and driving the land beyond carrying capacity by not allowing responsible hunting programs would have a lot to do with that. And an influx of invasive species. Well, maybe if you didn't leave looking at the insides of boats and scuppers and all that shit, only to state people, and you actually did your job in federal recreation areas, you might not have invasive aquatic species moving around. And maybe, just maybe, if you policed your friggin' borders and your Customs and Border Patrol people actually checked shit that was coming in on planes and boats from elsewhere, you wouldn't have a problem with some of the other invasive species. Just saying, okay? The rule would ensure that the BLM is able to respond to these pressures, managing for healthy lands today so it can deliver its multiple use mission now and in the future to ensure the health, diversity, and productivity of public lands for the use and enjoyment of present and future generations. The goddess shall once again interject. Remember, the federal government learned from the best. Communist Pravda. So do a 180 on exactly what that statement said, and you'll be getting to what they're getting at next. By putting conservation on an equal footing with other uses, the rule would deliver the promise of sustained yield while safeguarding important places for the millions of people who visit public lands every year to hike, hunt, camp, fish, and more. All right, let's break that down. Let me take a look at that writing again, dude.
Okay, just a second now. As it was reported, putting conservation on an equal footing. What they basically, this new rule proposed says is doing nothing is a use. So that, and not only that, but it is the assumed preferable use.
We're getting to that part.
You know?
Now, to look at what this is saying here. Safeguarding the important places for the millions of people who visit public lands every year to hike, hunt, camp, fish, and more. It should be noted that over the past 25 years, the amount of public land that you actually have any form of untrammeled access to has shrunk to basically nothing. The amount of public land that you have very limited access to, as in spending like 2 weeks a year on, or you can fish and catch and release only, or whatever, only on certain days of the year, has also significantly shrunk. It should be noted that the average amount of public land that you can visit in your national park, whether it's Yosemite or Yellowstone or Bryce Canyon or Zion's or any of the others, constitutes less than 5% of the land in that particular park. And only about 10% of that land is ADA compliant so that everybody can visit it. Okay, so back to this. Okay, the public lands rule would establish the policy BLM needs to build and maintain the resilience of public lands in three primary ways: protecting the most intact functioning landscapes.
That is banning all use.
Restoring degraded habitat and ecosystem.
In other words, banning all use on stuff that's already been used.
Exactly. Making wise management decisions based on science and data across all plans and programs.
In other words, a bunch of bullshit to keep anyone from using anything anywhere.
The proposed public lands rule was published in the Federal Register on April 3rd, 2023 for a 90-day public comment period, the longest comment period on rulemaking in recent history. which, by the way, should be the standard. The BLM received an initial total of 216,403 comments from tribes, states, and local governments, industry groups, advocacy organizations, and members of the public through regulations.gov, a website all of you should be intimately familiar with. Okay. Among these submissions were over 800 unique 8,000 unique substantive comments, which reveal Americans' deep commitment to their public lands. Now, the goddess did some digging into this. Okay. The last figures I saw from a couple of people I talked to here and there on Reddit and Prison Planet and a few other places that you guys are better off not knowing about, better than 90% of the comments on this particular regulation were trepidatious to downright seriously negative. The goddess is pretty much theorizing that the 8,000 unique substantive comments were likely from NGOs, greenie weenies, assorted eco-terrorists, and people that are going to make a lot of money off this shit. Okay? So, what is next? The BLM is making changes, as appropriate, to the proposed rule based on these comments and additional internal reviews. As the proposed rule is finalized, the BLM remains committed to working with its partners and stakeholders. That is a very ominous phrase, by the way, for our government. Yeah, in clearly implementing it. We expect to publish the final public lands rule later this winter. Now click on that plus for me, please. You can review the comments submitted in the rule on the federal e-rulemaking portal, regulations.gov. Okay.
Search docket BLM 2023-0001.
What does the BLM do with the comments it receives? Well, they keep them all, I can tell you that. The ones they pay attention to, another story entirely. The BLM reviewed all comments that were submitted on the proposed rule during the comment period. Comment letters are read to identify substantive comments, and substantive comments are considered in drafting the final text. Substantive comments do one of the following. Pay attention so you know how to structure your comment when you are screeching at bureaucrats.
It's closed.
No, this is for other things.
Okay.
This is important. Suggest specific changes or revisions to the language in the proposed rule. Question with reasonable basis the accuracy of information in a proposed rule. Question with reasonable basis the adequacy of methodology for or assumptions used for the rule, or present new information relative to the rule making. Now, this particular period for commenting has passed. That said, regulations.gov should be a regular stop for anybody who wants to keep an eye on what our kleptocratic sociopaths in Mordor on the Potomac are up to these days. And you need to learn how to make a substantive comment, because these comments do get saved forever. These comments produce a paper trail forever. And if by some magical means we actually manage to get this country back so that we can go on a bonanza of rope buying and creative knot tying, it's nice to have a nice wide paper trail that points directly to the people that have been breaking laws and violating the Constitution, right, left, sideways, up, and down. Okay? This is why we watch the Federal Register, because people like to laugh at the crazy, stupid criminals on TikTok that film themselves committing crimes and publish it on social media for social media clout. Spoiler alert, the Federal Register comes under that category too. Currently, we have an out of control feral government. And I use the word feral, not federal, deliberately. Sitting over there in Mordor on the Potomac, getting ready to do even more ridiculous things to mess us all up. If you have missed the news this week, it's probably because they make it a point not to publish any news. But if you have missed the news this week, we've once again set records and smashed records multiple days in a row down on our southern border with unauthorized visitors who are currently flying on airplanes around the country with boarding passes that say no name given after bypassing TSA security lines. And, you may have missed the news that Yemen is busy shooting rockets at our Navy over there in some silly ocean type thing in the Middle East. And, of course, nobody's doing anything yet, And you may, you may have missed some of this news. You may even have missed Lord Malarkey chiding reporters because they were not touting Bidenomics in the right way. He is annoyed with the press because they're not making Bidenomics look as amazing as it is. Yes, indeed they are. And the thing is, our particular crop of criminals still publish all of their intended actions on the website for everybody to read and comment on. Now, there is 2 or 3, there may even be 4 different federal laws at this point that tell them how long they're supposed to leave a comment there. How long they're supposed to leave something open for input from the public, which they ignore. And, there's 4 or 5 or 6 other regulations that they ignore concerning whether or not they're allowed to leave things off the website. But they do publish a hell of a lot on there. So if you want to see what the kleptocratic sociopaths are planning next, that's a damn good place to go. And if you actually have something you want to say about it, that's a damn good place to leave your little paper trail. Just saying. Because it is getting past time where we can all just sit, and err on the side of the good nature of human beings and say, well, this can't be due to malice. It's got to be simple incompetence. No. When you have 100% bad track record, you ain't looking at incompetence, people. You're looking at malice. And here's a nice little highlighted piece of information from their little thingy there. Yeah, the proposal is pragmatic, directing the BLM to conserve what's already in good shape. Well, what's already in good shape, according to them, is the shit that we're not allowed to touch in the first place. So there is that. But it is long past time for those of us who have been slacking and not reading the regulation.gov every day, which would be the goddess, I know better, to start reading it again every day. Because while the criminals are telling us what they're planning to do next, it's a good time to find out. Because sooner or later, it's going to dawn on them that telling us is a bad idea, especially when people start pushing back. And people will start pushing back at some point. People are already starting to push back over this holiday season as they've been standing in their long lines at Sky Harbor Airport in Phoenix and Tucson International Airport and Chicago O'Hare and other airports around the country and seeing long lines of people using warrants to appear in court as identification and packets of papers from international non-governmental organizations as identification, and hearing through alternative news sources, since the mainstream media isn't discussing it, that the Border Patrol has shut down all the checkpoints that used to stop drugs from moving further north if they made it through the border on the highways, because they need all those Border Patrol agents to go be waiters, busboys, and cooks in the camps. Oh, and back to that proposal about the land. The proposal would establish consistent frameworks for interested parties to pursue restoration on public lands, including through conservation leasing. Under a conservation lease, an external entity, money, start listening for the falling money here, could propose to enter into an agreement with the BLM to help achieve restoration or mitigation outcomes on public lands. For example, a nonprofit organization, oh my, who could have guessed?
Like the Sierra Club.
Could put people to work restoring mule deer or elk habitat, and through a conservation lease be assured the work could take hold and flourish. The proposal does not contemplate BLM requiring leasing, rather it's something an outside entity would request.
In other words, the Sierra Club could lease a bunch of land and kick everyone else off.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it would all be coming from the good ones. Mm-hmm. But that is where we are. Where we are is, yes, the public lands grab is moving forward at a truly alarming pace, actually. The goddess is more than a little bit annoyed with this one. And the continued controlled, planned implosion of the United States is continuing. And let's see where we are. If you want to write this number down, you can cross out that 602 and replace it with 673. And the goddess saw something this week that was truly historic. We went out looking around a couple of days before Christmas, like Thursday and Friday before we took off for Dave's mine. So we went to Costco on Friday to get our brand new phones with T-Mobile. Saving $100 a month is worth it, okay? So we go to T-Mobile to get our new phone set up. And Costco was mobbed. I'm like, wow, finally some sign of Christmas, and it's only the Friday before the Monday, okay? So there we are at Costco, and we're getting our new phones all set up and everything, and I'm looking around, and I went to go to the bathroom, and when I went to the bathroom, I'm walking by the long lines, people waiting to check out, and I'm looking at all the carts. On the way over there, I was all anticipatory. I'm thinking, wow, now I'm going to get to see what everybody's buying for Christmas. Well, what everybody was buying for Christmas was the cheapest possible charcuterie boards that you can get with the little cheese and crackers and dippy thingies with the little cutting board and stuff. And the little leaning towers of cookie things and the little packages of 4 bath bomb things and stuff like that. And dog food. And coats and fleece lined pants and ordinary meat. And I did see one dude that had like 5 jars of olives and a whole mess of shrimp cocktail and a couple of deli, the big round, the ones that are the size of the trunk of a Volkswagen, plates with the rolled up deli meats and cheese and things on them. Notably absent was all the normal Christmas presents, including, I only saw 3 of the Ninja Foodies that they have on sale, the hot gadget of the year, currently $89 and change. Okay. So I go to the bathroom, we come back, and we start shopping around and going elsewhere. Well, I went to Joann, and I got some yarn to make something. And then we headed over to ye old Walmart. So we walked through the door of ye old Walmart, and the big holiday section in the front was completely empty. The Christmas tree section was looking damned empty. The clearance signs were up all over the place. 4 days before Christmas, because we saw this part on Thursday. 4 days before Christmas, Walmart had already clearanced out all of their Christmas. It was all 50 to 60% off, 70% off, almost no candy left, almost no anything left. Nothing was moving into those new shelves yet. When we went to ye old Winco, the following day on Friday, after we went to Costco, we went to Winco. And Winco already had their Christmas candy and their little Christmas gifts, the slippers and the hats and the mittens and all those little, squishmallows and other strange things were on clearance. Christmas clearance, the one that everybody waits for to go shopping the day after Christmas, had already happened. And so the goddess got to wondering here. It's pretty damn bad when Thanksgiving is showing up in the stores 3 weeks before Halloween. Christmas is showing up in the stores 2 days after Halloween. When Walmart still has the doorbuster Black Friday prices that used to only be good for Black Friday weekend, the weekend before Christmas, and people still aren't buying them. And when the angel tree in Walmart is still covered with tags the Thursday before Christmas. This retail holiday season did not go well. And one of the biggest reasons that I know it didn't go well, there's a lot of news we're not getting anymore. But one piece of news we always used to get, even during COVID, was the week after Black Friday and Cyber Monday, no later than the second week in December, people would be discussing the sales figures on the news from Black Friday and Cyber Monday. And somehow, that didn't happen this year.
Did the numbers even come out?
I'm thinking that if they came out, they got memory hold in one hell of a hurry because people really don't want to try to spin this. I don't think there is a way to spin this because I'll tell you what I saw online. I saw people all over the online world, Facebook and Reddit and TikTok and Twitter and everywhere else, Black Friday weekend, saying Amazon had jacked all the prices up 25% the week before and then slashed them back down to their original level and called them Black Friday sales, which pissed people off, and they were all accusing Amazon of price gouging. Yeah, right. Amazon was just doing what Kohl's has been doing for decades. Everybody was saying, I can't do any shopping this year. There were dozens of variations on the memes that said, I don't need a cheap price on a TV. I need a cheap price on a turkey. I need a cheap price on groceries. I need $1.99 a gallon gas. I am pretty damn sure that they are still trying to find a way to turn the math on these retail sales numbers that came out of the Black Friday, Cyber Monday weekend. And they're not releasing these numbers in any substantive way because there isn't a good way to spend them. I don't think you can spin a holiday season that didn't happen. And it didn't happen for a lot of people. Goodwill was mobbed, by the way. The last couple of days before Christmas, we went to Goodwill. What was it? We went to Goodwill last week, and it was mobbed. We went to Samaritan, our other thrift store. The place was half empty because they got hit too. The only place I saw this holiday season that was crowded at any given time, and both times I went there, it was mobbed, was Hobby Lobby. Because a lot of people are making shit. And Hobby Lobby clearancing their Christmas stuff out starting 2 weeks before Christmas, which is typical for a craft store. But you have to wonder, because it looks like this year Christmas didn't come. Not for the retailers. Christmas came for us. I got a glitter hat a couple of weeks before Christmas. And I got a really nice skirt at the thrift shop. And today we watched a couple of great movies. And we have an amazing turkey that he cooked up. Turned out beautiful. And brownies. Nice keto brownies here. But it doesn't feel like Christmas in a lot of places. And it doesn't feel like things are going to be normal going into the new year. Gold and silver, at the moment, are still on sale. We're going to go see if we can find out what they're on sale for at the moment. Let's see here. Gold was $2,064.25, and silver was $24.34 an ounce. Platinum was $971.50, palladium $1,217. So yeah, precious metals are still on sale. So it is absolutely a great time to back up the truck. Because I'll tell you right now, most of the junk that was being sold out there this year, I found monumentally unimpressive. It's just bizarre what was happening this year in terms of what was being sold. And nobody else was buying it either, so I don't think I missed anything. Just saying. It is a good time as the year comes to a close to take stock of how things have gone this year. And I'd say that if you charted how things have gone this year, not just that number back there, but a whole bunch of other shit, things are not looking very good. They're looking kind of bearish. And when things are looking bearish, the things that one stocks up on become very important. Gold and silver. Food. Generator. Generators are good. Generators are great things. And the knowledge that if you don't hold it, you don't own it.
Medicine also.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of shortages in medicine. Don't even try to stock up on that.
Oh.
Most of it's gone, disappeared now.
Anyhow, so that's the view from Helena as to what's going on here. I don't know if anyone was paying attention around their locations as to what people were buying this Christmas season and whether or not it seemed normal. If anyone wants to combat that, would be cool.
The goddess is one of the few people who pays attention to such
So,
shit. That's why
anyhow,
the goddess.
It looks pretty bizarre. Everything continues to look pretty bizarre. There's I think it's V John Health is a YouTube channel. Dr. Philip McMillan. He's had some very interesting um, videos, like the last 4 days, 4 videos, 4 days, specifically focusing on some potential consequent situations due to the recent medical intervention. And his conclusion is that it would be nice if they were more sanguine, but they're quite concerned that the situation we're going to see in the near future is going to be vastly worse than the one we saw 2 years ago, but only amongst the people who are heavily protected, supposedly. And so that is very interesting. There are certain products that people have suggested are effective at improving health under certain circumstances that he recommended one might wish to pay closer attention to and maybe even stock up on. Vitamin D is one. Another one was, I love this, something that rhymes with pectin. Okay.
Well, vitamin D is something everybody should be taking.
But anyhow, so that's something to watch out for. If Dr. McMillan and Dr. Vanderbosch are correct, then the ride we're going to have is going to be a lot more exciting than the ride we had before, due to a combination of the medical intervention and the evolutionary pressures put on certain microorganisms. Okay. And so that could create a very interesting situation where all of the people who are supposedly protected are the only ones dying. So that's another potential factor in the whole predict the future equation that is very difficult to factor in, but could have very dramatic consequences on a societal cultural level. Okay, so we'll see how that. All of these instabilities, good idea, honey. All of these instabilities are such, you may want to delete that comment there. Who knows what the bots are searching for in terms of words. But, and then my train of thought just got derailed. But all of these, I think, are good for the price of the precious metals. When you look at the debt, the U.S. debt right here going up, I think that's going to be good. I'm going to try. Well, let's see. Please remove that comment, Honey Bunny, that last one. I think I can remove it by clicking this thing here, but it might remove you, and I certainly don't want to do that. Okay, good. Thank you. They've got their little search algorithms looking for stuff. But anyhow, if you're near Mexico, you can probably get it across the border. It's available as a veterinary medication. You may or may not be able to get a doctor to prescribe it.
Speaking of which, they have tightened up regulations that starting this coming year in January, veterinary medications like antibiotics, etc., that used to be available without a prescription at hay and feed stores will now need a prescription from a veterinarian so you can get it to care for your animals.
Okay. So anyhow, I say thank you guys for getting the information out there and then hiding it again very quickly. Appreciate it. So anyhow, I say, well, let's see. Let me just zip on over here real quick to that thing, get a link. John Cadigan says Tesla Cybertruck has a massive battery problem. He's a funny guy. It's John Cadigan, auto expert John Cadigan. He's pretty funny. Okay.
He's also very good at explaining why electric vehicles are stupid.
Okay, here's a link that you might find interesting. This is the Dr. McMillan's latest thing, which is basically what to do. If you find it interesting, you can look at some of the last few things on his channel where it explains the problem or the potential problem in more detail. The Geert Wilders interview is pretty dense. Okay, it's a little hard. So he had like a conclusion thing like the next day or whatever. That would be more that would be more easily digested. Okay. You can't see my posts. Okay, John, did you just see one that's listed at 8:02 p.m.? Okay. I just put it up. Yours is listed at 8:03. So it'd been about 1 minute before, or the minute before. It might have been a few seconds, but just from the views. My comment is not being. That's fascinating.
What?
I just posted a link to that video.
And it didn't show up.
And John is saying he can't see it. Okay, Jeff says he can see it.
Well, it depends on how. John may also have his may have filters on his computer.
Check and make sure that you're not accidentally filtering out my stuff or something. Okay, Honey Bunny just sent it. Also, do you see that link, John? Okay. I've got tie stats selected. I think there's some way that I have no idea how to do that, John. If you still can't get it and you want the link, I believe you have my email. Do you? If you do, you can email me and I will send it as a return email. They're both fairly interesting and potentially extremely important subjects. So I think it would be advantageous for people to look at them, evaluate them from a personal standpoint. Okay, try clicking on that and seeing if that link works, John. Okay, Honey Bunny, thank you for the help there. But anyhow, as I say, in the case of these videos, Dr. McMillan was postulating somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 million dead. Okay.
Worldwide.
Worldwide. In the developed world. Because strangely enough, the excess deaths aren't occurring in the Eastern Europeans or Africa or anything like that. Quite fascinating. But anyhow, so I say this is another factor in terms of the cultural and political stability, which I can't really predict what it's going to do, except that if some of the more extraordinary predictions come true, then okay, honey bunny. If they come true, it could cause great instability, great social instability. So I know what my personal feelings are on what the situation probably is, but everyone needs to look at the information themselves, decide what you think the reasonable scenario spectrum is, and decide how best for you to respond to that potential threat scenario. Okay. Very much. I'm a firm believer in individual freedom. Okay. And this is why I really dislike the censorship stuff, because the way you find the truth is like in a jury trial or trial itself, where you have advocates for both viewpoints fight it out, throw their best shots at each other, and then let somebody watch this discussion and call it intellectual combat and decide who they think won the argument. And it can go anywhere from there's this side's right to that side's right to they're both right to a certain extent, they're both wrong. It can be anywhere. And I say, I have been near enough to enough stuff to realize that what you read in the papers is not what actually happened. I say, there's always information distortion that occurs. Sometimes it's well-meaning, innocent, things like that. Hey, Muckraker, Merry Christmas. Oh, thank you, Muckraker. We're just kind of BSing a little bit right now. Well, Mia is doing most of the BSing because I don't have any way currently to have other people come on. Do you have any questions or comments or anything like that you might want to have me address? Hey, that's pretty good. The right is wrong and the left is crazy. That's a good one. I like that. But anyhow, I say the one word that describes the future as I see it for the next anywhere from weeks to a couple of years is chaotic in the mathematical sense. In terms of it's very difficult to predict because there's too many moving parts that are too sensitive to influences. A little push here gets magnified to a big crunch there and stuff like that. And I see that situation here. But the one thing I do not expect is a nice, calm return to normalcy before having something a lot more chaotic than we got now between hither and thither. And during that phase, I would expect the precious metals to go up in value. I would expect everything to be a lot more stressful and difficult to predict. Okay. And another thing of potential value is even limited prepping gives you more resilience, which allows you to relax more. You can say, well, this, okay, fine, I can deal with it. Well, what if this, I can deal with that, you know? Where do I shop for lab supplies? I usually just go to Amazon. You can usually get some pretty good prices on stuff.
American Science and Surplus.
And another one is American Science and Surplus. Now,
Sciplus.com.
Sciplus.com.
I believe it is.
SCIPLUS.com. Okay. Yep. Okay. That Sciplus.com has a lot of really interesting stuff. They're inexpensive, and sometimes you get some really cool stuff. Like these are illuminated loops, and I get these for about $6 a piece.
They have tons of magnets.
Yep.
You can never have enough magnets.
I agree with you, Honey Bunny. So when it comes to chemicals, if you're looking for small quantities of chemicals, Amazon usually has somebody who will sell you something at a reasonable price. If you're looking at large quantities of chemicals, if you're looking for assay stuff, we usually use Legend. I think it's in Reno, Nevada. They got, crucibles and all that kind of assay stuff. Precious gold-free litharge, stuff like that. And the actual bulk chemicals, we often buy from the local chemical supplier. Don't know what size city you live in, whatever. But if you need a reasonable amount of something, like a 50-pound bag makes sense. A 50-pound bag for $250 makes a lot more sense than a 5-pound bag at $50 sort of thing. Then you go to your local supplier, and depending upon the use, it's a lot more economical many times to buy what's known as technical grade rather than reagent grade, or specifically, I don't think it's analytical grade. It may be.
Oh, now this is an interesting new thing.
But anyhow, things like you can go down to the hardware store and buy muriatic acid, for hydrochloric. Works fine. What, little one?
Apparently, you're not supposed to use milk all the way to the expiration date. Once it's open, you've got 7 to 10 days max, and then you're supposed to throw it out.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I have a cold refrigerator, so it lasts a lot longer than that.
Oh, I'm just saying that's what the USDA is apparently saying these days.
Yep. So that's, one of the things you look for. I say if what you're doing, you can use technical grade, like say thiourea, we're using for bleach solution. We're not using analytical stuff. It's a lot cheaper. Okay. Modular $10,000 truck starting at $13,000 in the Hilux line. I'm not sure about that. That's a conventional fossil fuel powered one, I presume. If it's $10,000, that would be good. That'd be excellent. The nice thing about the internet is you can find lots of stuff, lots of possible suppliers and stuff. But that's how I do it. Most of the laboratory equipment, beakers, things like that, we've generally got from either Amazon or Sciplus, usually Amazon. That would be an excellent price, Jeff. Yeah, if you can do that. They've got auction site here in Helena, but we haven't found anything terribly useful. Lauren got some interesting stuff from them, but yeah, we haven't found a good source for used lab equipment or anything like that yet.
If you open high in Shanghai,
if you have a big university nearby and they have their own office of getting rid of surplus stuff, that's always a good place to check out for things. Sometimes you can get like a good microscope for $50 or something like that. It's just really hard to tell. As a general rule, things like microscopes are usually in pretty good demand. So not bad, but used laboratory equipment, different things. Something like, inexpensive centrifuges. There's no glamour in centrifuges, but they're very useful if you have a lab. So say there's a variety of things.
And don't overlook your thrift shops. You can use a lot of glassware that is not necessarily labware, but works perfectly fine.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just doing reactions in them, as Honey Bunny says, mason jars work okay. We do stuff where we're heating it.
Yeah, and so Pyrex baking.
And so we quite often, are like, let's just spend the money for a cheap, beaker. Let's see.
So like Pyrex measuring cups can be heated.
Yeah, let's see. New Jersey's secret volcano. Oh, really? Let's see. Amazon. Let's see. Let's go to orders. Search all orders. Wow. All of 2023. Let's see. Yep. Wow. Got a lot of pages of orders.
Yep.
Portable gas detector, pumps, candy, lights. There's your coin tubes, little pumps.
Yeah, I'm gonna need more of those. You can add those to the list.
There's our, spot plates, filter cartridges.
You can add coin tubes to our cart again.
We'll see here. Oh, yeah. Okay, there's bottles. 4-pack, 32 ounce, 1 quart amber bottles for $26.99.
Yeah, those are the ones we did.
Aquarium heater. That was an interesting modification we did there. So far, that one we modified for waterproofness has been working just fine. Cutting off the top and then waterproofing it seemed to do just fine. Okay, here's 1,000 milliliter filtration flask.
Yeah, I think that's
$25.
You broke it, isn't it? Or was that the beaker you broke?
I think it was a beaker. So, say that gives you an idea. What was that you wanted to order again?
Coin tubes.
Coin tubes.
Go back and put them in the cart.
Let's see. Add to cart. In. Yeah, an electron microscope would be a bit much.
You might find one surplus. You find all kinds of weird things surplus.
Yeah. If the tubes keep flying out of your centrifuges, either they're really, really bad or there's something awry. Try not filling the tubes up as much so you have a lower center of gravity. But I've never had that problem. What kind of centrifuge do you use? What would the old timers do with gold prices today? Well, they'd be shocked at the gold price, and then they'd be shocked at the price of everything else. If you looked at it in terms of what it can buy, it's probably not that much difference than what it was 100 years ago. That's the advantage of it.
That in perspective, 100 years ago here in Montana, you could buy a steer at half market weight to 3/4 market weight for just under an ounce of gold. And today, you and I can buy a steer at half market weight to 3/4 market weight for just under an ounce of gold.
I don't know if everyone heard that, but Eva says here in Montana, the price of steers in ounces of gold is pretty constant compared to what it was 100 years ago.
Yeah, it is pretty much everywhere.
Yep. So, say that's, yeah, the actual price is one thing, but the price compared to costs is another. So that's where it really wouldn't be that shocking in and of itself, only how much the price of everything else has gone up, in my never to be humble opinion. So, I say, right now, I think precious metals are a good hedge against inflation. I don't know if they're a good investment in terms of buy now, sell high, buy low, sell high sort of thing. That's not the purpose. We're buying for the long term as a hedge against inflation. Plus, Eva likes certain things are kind of, they've got curiosity value to her that she likes. I'm going to have to take a short break, folks. Feel free to continue chatting amongst yourselves. It'll only take a minute, maybe two.
Oh, yeah.
Love you. Got up another 100 million, huh? Yep.
Yeah, so what you want to know?
Could be muckraker. I don't have any access to it. Right now, my concern on a theoretical basis chemically is the top of the hill stuff and the mystery dump, and possibly the stuff from Jeff Kablock, maybe the stuff at Dave's mine, things like that. I mean, if Dave comes up with a good good high grade zone, he might go ahead and crush and gravity extract. Then we might buy his tailings from him to leach. We'll just have to see. Why are they giving you money, Honey Bunny? Yeah, Muckraker, say we'll probably have similar stuff in the spring. We're doing testing right now on the top of the hill and mystery dump ores. So we'll see how those work out and try and get an idea what's up with all that. Top of the hill may have interesting grade between. Okay, that's cool, Honey Bunny. And so we're not sure what kind of low grade values may be up there. We do have a lot of other stuff to do at top of the hill. And we got more exploration work to do up there. So that could be interesting on a primary exploration thing, like what we did over there at Dave's mine this time.
Just an FYI, folks. Those with a Costco membership, Costco sold 100 billion with a B, million with an M dollars in gold in 1 quarter on their website. They're now selling tubes of American Silver Eagles for like $3 over spot per coin. Limit 2 tubes per person on the website. Costco members. I don't buy from the Mint because the Mint is breaking the law. However, for those who like Silver Eagles, that's a darn good price.
Hey, Forrest. Happy Christmas.
Forrest.
He would be right here.
Hi, Forrest.
Yeah. You doing okay, Forrest? Everything's going fine with us. Thank you for all the help 4 years ago, I think it is now. Anyhow, it'd be nice to see you again sometime. And Forrest he was very helpful when I was doing that dredging and stuff. Nice guy. And so anyhow, surprised any silver sells like silver. But as I say, it's just one of those things that this spring ought to be really interesting. Late spring into summer should be very busy if the world isn't going to hell. And of course, if it's going to hell, then it'll be interesting for an entirely different reason.
I want to look at a couple of things on Temu if it's all right with you.
You mean like right now?
On my phone.
Oh,
if
okay.
I find something, I may decide to get it since I have a credit.
Okay.
To pay for part of it.
I don't know. Let's hope so, Honey Bunny. But yeah, there'll be a lot more of the preliminary exploration as opposed to exploitation stuff. Should be finishing the decline to the 40-foot level at Montana B. That should only take a weekend or two. And then we'll do a little sampling and see where we go from there. Whether or not we continue focus on Montana B. Jeff should be here next summer, so we got a number of possibilities there with his claims. Should be a very, very interesting year. Should have a lot going on. This winter, not going to be nearly as busy as last winter where we had all that laboratory experimentation we were doing. Very little lab work this winter. As far as I know, we don't have any real questions to answer right now. We have a very few, very limited questions at the moment that are easily done in a little bit of spare time. But I suspect it won't be a whole lot of mining videos this winter. Not unless Muckraker, one question she'll need to know is how close to paid off is the house? Okay. Because if it's basically paid off and you don't want to sell it and move somewhere else, I would say no. On the other hand, if you've got a great deal of mortgage to pay, like, you've only paid off 10 or 20% of it, and if the situation were to go south, you might have real trouble paying off the rest, that might be an interesting idea. But that's some of the things to balance out. But it's
picking up some stuff that's like all under $1.
Okay. But that's how I would balance that. Again, if you had a house in Los Angeles that was only 10% paid off, so where if the situation goes south, you're gonna, it's gonna be a horrible place. You're gonna have to leave it, and it's just gonna get repossessed. Doing 5% second mortgage on it to buy silver, it's not a bad hedge. On the other hand, if you had something that was 95% paid off or completely paid off in Montana, I'd say no, don't mortgage it, don't risk it. Just, get some other stuff. That's how I would balance it. Okay. Did that answer your question well from your standpoint? Tell Tin Hat Eva that I said hi. Just got another place to do some prospecting on using a dry washer this summer. Well, good, Forrest. Thank you.
Woohoo!
Yep, she's happy. Okay, Muckraker, you're welcome. Now, one thing that many of you might not necessarily be aware of, for those of us as old as I am, when I was in my late teens, we were having a big economic situation in the United States. High inflation, high interest rates. Everyone was looking to disaster and stuff. Okay, Grant Rennie, let me give it to you. Hard Rock U at Outlook. Okay, there's my email address, Grant. You can also, on the intro to every one of my videos, right after the titles, there's a short thing that gives our, what do you call it? Donation sort of thing. And our email is one of the identifiers there. Okay. So anyhow, because of that situation where things were extremely unstable, there's a lot of people looking at high interest rates, high inflation, and possible economic collapse. So I was brought up, when I was a late teenager to my early 20s, I was brought up in this kind of environment where people were looking for stability, how to avoid inflation, and stuff like that. Okay. That's what I cut my adult teeth on. So there's a lot of theory there. Patreon. Thank you, Honey Bunny. There's a lot of theory there that applies in this situation here. Does it was apply in any country that was undergoing these sort of stresses? And that was one of them. Was if you have a house or a piece of property and it's mostly paid off or almost or entirely paid off, then that's a security blanket. If it doesn't have much payoff, if you've still got a lot to pay on it, especially if you can refinance at a fixed interest rate, well, depending on what the interest rates are now versus what you expect them to be. Like right now, a 5% interest rate may look real good in a year. It's hard to tell, So that's the kind of thing that I've already seen this many, many, many years ago, and how to make these balancing acts, to balance these decisions. Anyhow, let's say it's in a situation like that, my focus is security, not trying to make maximum return, or as they used to say, is not return on investment, it's return of investment. Where can I put the money where I don't lose value? Okay. If you put your money in a bank account paying 4% interest when inflation's at 14% a year, you're losing 10% a year. And so I say these sort of things were pretty standard fare back then. I would say those are two good options, Forrest. What Forrest said was only two ways to go: either be completely out of debt or in debt to the hilt and be mobile. Exactly. I say those are two good extremes. Some people, for various reasons, it may make more sense to be somewhere other than those. Yeah, if you're like using your credit cards and paying them off every month, things like that, to get a good credit rating, nothing wrong with that, because you're not really in debt except for very temporarily, and as such, you're essentially out of debt. You're just improving your credit rating. There are times where it's a good idea, for a credit rating standpoint, to buy something and then pay it off either fairly quickly or, maybe even on time, but you basically have put the money away, so you've already got a sinking fund to cover it, that sort of thing. But again, it's very, very individualistic. Someone like Honey Bunny or me and Eva has the ability to be very mobile. We don't have young children. We don't have somebody I know here. He boards horses. He's got 56 horses to deal with. Things like that. When you have a situation like that, that has a huge effect on how you structure things. The advantage of being mobile is no matter when it hits the fan, it never hits the fan the same everywhere. And if you can move around so that you're never at the fan when things hit the fan, you can do pretty good. Okay. But again, it's very individualistic. It's what your abilities, your age, your circumstances, and your desires. Okay. Even I are comfortable without a lot of resources and being mobile, and other people would not be comfortable at all. And some people are comfortable leaving everything, just dropping it and running and starting afresh somewhere else. Other people, that would be a nightmare. So it's very important that your plan take into account your personality and your situation. Okay? That's critical. Okay. I will go take a look at him right now, Grant. Let's see. He sent me some pictures. Hasn't showed up yet. Let me refresh. There it is. Okay. So, first one. That looks to me like sulfides, primarily. The shiny stuff. Again, if I was looking at it in person, I'd have a much better level of confidence. But that looks like sulfides. And at the top where you're holding it is oxidized sulfides. That is my guess at this point. Number two, the reddish, brownish stuff is what looks to me oxidized sulfides. And I can't tell what the shiny stuff is. It's reflecting the light in such a way I can't be clear. It could be sulfides. It could also be a phyllite, which would have to do with mica shining and stuff like that. Number three, again, I'm suspecting that all of these are heavy, aren't they, Grant? I presume you said these are heavy. They are heavy dense. Okay, that's what I thought you said. Yeah, they look like oxidized sulfides. Number four, the lighter colored section of the rock, again, due to the lighting, I can't tell. That looks more like a fine-grained high silica rock, like a theoretically like a real fine-grained granite or something. But again, the lighting can be very tricky. Number five, oxidized pyrites or sulfides. Number six, tend to agree with that. Okay. They look like oxidized sulfides. Okay. Now, if you want to send some to me so I can do a few little simple tests and look at them, that would be fine. Here is my mailing address, 1783 59624, right, little one?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's my post office address. If you want to send some to me, then I can, as I say, do some simple tests. I can get it crushed up a bit, do some panning, do some macroscopic examination, hardness testing, things like that, and see what happens. Honey Bunny's suggestion of heating it is a legitimate method. If there's sulfides, it's safer to crush them before you heat them so they don't, if there's moisture, they can explode. And also, as Honey Bunny says, the fumes are anywhere from hazardous to highly toxic, depending upon what's in them. So, yes, you can do that. Heat them, crush them up a fair amount, heat them till a dull red, let them oxidize, and then pan the residue. But I can do that too. It's going to be slow this winter, so we can play a few games and make some videos so that other people can see it. It should be a good opportunity to do stuff like that. And I've been focusing on production for the last year and a half to the not to the exclusion of, but it has hurt the information flow in terms of exploration. Russell Brand is still doing stuff on YouTube also. Neil Oliver is, I don't know if he's still on GB News or not. Hi, Rock.
Hi, Rock.
How's it going? Hey, guy just sent me some pictures of some rocks. Do you want to look at them? I can email them right to you. It'll only take a couple minutes. And it looks to me like oxidizing sulfides and stuff. Okay, let me zip on over there. Let's see, hit forward to, hello, to, there you go. On the way, Rock. Now, this is the nice thing, Grant. Rock Butcher is a professional field exploration, I think, geochemist, if I'm not mistaken. But I mean, that's his specialty, is field exploration. So he's vastly more qualified to look at those pictures than I am. Okay. And so this is one of the fun things about these live streams. We have people like you show up with a question, and it, stimulates information flow, makes life interesting. And everybody here likes helping people. And so if anyone can just throw in a little bit of expertise or knowledge or whatever to advance the thing, we like to do that. And so quite often you can get some really good advice real quick and simple this way. Yeah, Jeff, by the way, Merry Christmas to everyone who just showed up recently too. World renowned.
He's renowned.
Yep. Well, that's actually a bit of a joke, because his that job he got in Arizona, they called him a world renowned in the press release, and he had to mellow that out. Oh.
Well,
see,
you're internationally known.
I'm internationally known, absolutely, but
I recognize.
I say that's the thing that us people here. I say we try and not take ourselves too seriously. Oh, by the way, Rock, did you see that? I think you saw that walleye I caught. That was a nice one. That's right, because I was asking how. No, I think it was Jason from Fargo Wizards. But anyhow, that was a nice walleye I caught. Yeah, we try not to take ourselves too seriously, Grant. When I had an unfortunate surgical misadventure that cost me my right testicle, yeah, when I was a little uncomfortable, so I couldn't sit up and do the live stream. We let everyone know testicle jokes would not be punished. However, they would be graded. And you may still see the occasional testicle joke show up from time to time. That's what that's about, if you see it. Oh. So anyhow, yeah, we try to have fun. We try to have to, you think. Well, that would be good. Still proud of a grade you once gave me, huh? It's tough to beat Chris Georgie, but there have been a couple. Well, that's a good question. Would it be the one that's somewhere out there, probably incinerated or something by now? Or is it the one that's still attached? I don't know. Which one is closer to the gravitational center of the Earth? I would guess they don't have to be next to each other. They don't have to be in close proximity, I wouldn't think. The other one's definitely not hanging, though. By the way, I heard a good joke the other day. It's a dirty joke. Anyone want to hear it? I thought it was pretty funny. I would run it until I stopped getting more gold out of it, Forrest. At each pat, I'd take a sample and I'd run it through once, pan the cons, run it through again, pan the cons, run it through again, and see when it becomes unreasonable to rerun it. And that's it. It's not a particular thing. Okay, he should be watching there, Rock. Let me see. Let me go to the channel here. It wasn't on the last video. It was on second to the last video. Wow. There we go. Yeah, it says a quick fishing trip while the weather is good. That's the one that has the walleye on it. It's about a 3 to 4 pound, 24-inch walleye. You know. He says it's from Scotland. You know. It's something you don't have much contact with anymore, honey bunny. How's everything going with Onan, Rock? By the way, okay, in case you didn't hear, Lauren is recovering well. So that's a good thing. No, that walleye was about 24 inches, between 3 and 4 pounds. That's good, Rock. As long as she's on the mend and not showing any signs of complications. That's good. Yeah, so you're doing the Christmas holidays without your helper. That's going to keep you pretty busy. I didn't do anything to Lauren. It wore out his shoulder. Before that, the knee, he got tackled by a dog, and it damaged his knee. Well, that's good. As long as things are healing well and no complications showing up. After about 4 or 5 days on most surgeries, if no complications have showed up, you're pretty much in good shape. Some things can be a little sketchier than that. But, like with my heart surgery, I had that atrial fibrillation about 5 or 6 days after the surgery, and that was about it. that is one question, Jeff. The other thing is, if you are going to want to rerun it, depending on how much dirt you have in terms of a resource, you could set up one dry washer after another, so you only do the effort of shoveling the dirt one time. That's also another possibility. Like if you're sluicing, you can always put a longer sluice out there if you have the room. So by knowing basically how much, how many feet of device you need to get the recovery you want, so you can always just stack them up one after the other, which is, the efficient way of doing it. But for testing, you would usually just rerun it. That's like that top of the hill stuff with all the gold in it. We're probably running let's see, at least 3 sets of mat, which is like a 10-foot sluice or something like that, instead of the current 30-inch sluice. Oh. Well, that's another indication that you might want to change things a little bit. Okay. Okay, let me see this next rock here. Okay, Grant. That is either a really rich gold rock, which is not impossible but highly unlikely, or most likely chalcopyrite. From a statistical standpoint, it's almost certainly chalcopyrite, but it's easy to test. Okay, I'm going to send this to Rock again. And the way you can test that yourself, Grant, is get something like that with a sharp point, just a sharp knife, and then scratch it. Now, here's a piece of lead, and when you try and scratch the lead, where's the best one here? Okay. When you scratch the lead, you get a gouge. See how that is gouging? When you scratch chalcopyrite, it will crumble. Okay? So by using a sharp point on it, you're either going to get a gouge where it pushes the stuff out like you would lead. If it crumbles into pieces, especially if it changes color when you do that, it's going to be like chalcopyrite. Chalcopyrite, yeah. It says with chalcopyrite, Rock says the pulverized material next to the scratch will be dark, almost black. Okay? So it's not how soft it is, but in which way is it soft? Okay? Are you able to do that test right now? Do you have the sample to hand? Because if you do, that's all you got to do. It's that simple. Yeah, I haven't really dealt with massive chalcopyrite too much, Rock, but I say a scratch test is really definitive. Anything that looks like a chunk of gold, when you scratch it, you can tell if it's gold or not real easy. And that's clearly large enough pieces that he can do that test. So we'll kind of hang out just a bit and see whether he's able to do that test. Because it'd be kind of cool. It's hard to show these pictures. I don't have the software installed, but it would be nice on things like that to be able to do that. Shoot me the photo. Should be in your inbox already, Rock. Yeah, it's most likely chalcopyrite. And I presume, Grant, you saw the answers about the first set of photos? No. Arsenopyrite is silver looking. Okay. Green, that's usually copper. Sometimes it can be other stuff. But greens and blues are almost always copper just because by far the most abundant. You know? So that's it. I presume I hit send. Yeah, I did send it. So Rock should have it by now. John, you should never breathe around mining or processing. Easier said than done, John. Okay. Did you hear my suggestion of taking the point of a knife and trying to get, basically trying to cut the surface? Like this, that's lead. But something like that, because if it is gold, it is malleable and it will gouge. If it is chalcopyrite, it may be fairly soft, but it's brittle. And so it'll break up into finely divided material that's very darkly colored. So it's possible that rock it can, Grant. It can be gray and again, lead sulfide galena can be quite malleable too. So you can gouge it with a knife and it'll literally just fold, or it can also become more brittle. Yeah, a knife's something easy to do almost anywhere. That's the nice thing. It's very fast. That's why this knife here is a little bit dull because I'm always testing rocks with it. So, Grant, just let us know. Can you do the test, or have you done the test with a knife point? Course with Amethyst. That's great. Yeah, well, again, the yellow stuff, does it gouge or does it grind up into a powder? If it's gold, there will be no powder. It'll just smear and gouge out. Just like, if you take this and do that, you don't get any powder. See, the term soft is not definitive. It marks with no powder, correct? It doesn't, when you're doing the gouge, it doesn't, like if you were, say, taking a piece of chalk, you could make a gouge real easy too, but no powder. You need to take that. If that's the case, then you need to take that to an expert, because that is specimen gold. And that can be very, very valuable. Don't do any more scratching. It can sometimes sell for 10 times the actual weight of gold.
If it actually turns out to be gold,
it could be extremely valuable, especially if it's from an unusual place. Like, I don't know if Scotland, being a big gold producer or whatever, a chunk like that from Australia would not be as valuable as a chunk like that from Scotland. Okay. So yeah, if that's the case, you can quite often go to jewelers and they will have the ability to test to see if it's really gold, because they don't want to get taken. And if it shows that it's gold, you can also take it to a local university geology department and have them look at it. I can't imagine a geologist not wanting to look at it. I say, well, and Brock might be right. I don't think Grant specifically said it did come from Scotland. Boulders with white crystals, 99%, and black shiny specks in them. What could that be? A lot of different things. Okay. There's a lot of possibilities there, Grant. Usually the white crystals would be quartz and feldspars, and the black could be what would they do? My brain doesn't work like it used to be. Like the hornblende minerals. You can use an acid test. There's a variety of them that you can do. But, I mean, there's a conductivity test they have nowadays.
You can hold a metal detector over it.
See, that's the nice thing about having Rock here. Dude knows his rocks.
Well, don't forget, you can use a metal detector too.
Well, that's what happens when you live in Scotland, I guess, Grant. Hey, Gold Pandan. Merry Christmas to you too. Don't tell them it came from Scotland. Tell them I found this at a store or something like that. What's this that Honey Bunny posted? Come on. What is it? History of Gold Exploration in Scotland, Part 2. Okay. So, yeah, I say, I don't know where you got it. I don't really care where you got it. That's up to you. If it was Scotland, it would be very unusual. If it was somewhere else and you just happened to purchase it at a rock show or something, that would be cool. Say, if you don't tell them that it came from Scotland or whatever, then can there be a problem? I don't know. But yeah, check electrical conductivity too. If you were to use just a volt ohm meter, that gold, if that's gold, it's going to have a very very high conductivity, very low resistance. If it's chalcopyrite, it's going to have a much higher resistance than gold. I mean, you get a good contact with two probes a 1/4 inch apart, and you should be looking at way less than an ohm. Okay. What's the conductivity of chalcopyrite? I mean, electrical conductivity, any idea? I presume it would be multiple ohms in a 1/4 of an inch, but I have no idea how much. But that's another way you can test it. I see nothing, I hear nothing, I know nothing. Yep, exactly. But yeah, that's a very interesting rock. So I would keep that. Definitely. And I have no idea. I mean, in the United States, we have the ability to claim government land. And that creates a lot of motivation to find stuff. When you don't have that ability, you have a lot less motivation, as you are probably noticing. Because around here, if anyone found something like that on open land, the first thing they'd be doing is slamming stakes in the ground quick. Good, Gold Pandan. We're having an interesting little discussion here. But I hope to make it to some streams to go fishing. So Honey Bunny sent something there with an article. Electrical properties of chalcopyrite. Wow, it'd be nice if they had some numbers in the abstract. Oh, well. Come on, stop that. Oh. Anyone else have anything they want to bring up? Is it orange or yellow, Grant? Orange can be iron oxide staining. Yellow would be citrine. Is that the sort of thing that where they clean and something that could be cut and polished? Bright Life Raft orange. Probably iron staining, but I don't know. You can also take some of those. Oh, you're going to send me some of those pyrite samples for me to play with. So I'll just do it for you. And put a video so that everyone can see what I did and what the results were. Rock Butcher suggested that if he visited his extended family in Scotland, he can talk to Grant. And Grant said he could definitely take you to a few sites near Glasgow. So I say I'll play some games with it and let you know, Grant. Put up a video. Yeah, it's so weird to think people living in a country where if you find something on government land, you can't do anything about it. Oh. Well, Grant, thank you for stopping by this evening. You've had some interesting food for thought here, and that was kind of cool. Now, the government really doesn't partner with anybody, John. Oh. Anyone else got anything interesting to talk about before we call it a night? Thanks for coming back, Rock. It was very, very convenient that you did. Thank you again. Yeah, it sounds like in Scotland they're not that loose. Yeah, whatever percentage they want to take, Forrest. They just come up with a number and then point a gun at you. Oh. Does anybody know best filtering for vent hoods? Well, I don't. I generally just want to get it out of there. I would presume that it would be what kind of fumes. And that's also a thing on Gold in Scotland that Honey Bunny came up with. I would think Chris would be the best one on that, John. But I don't know. Again, it's going to depend on what you're trying to exhaust. If it's mainly like acid fumes or something, you'd want something basic. What?
Your PayPal debit card, since I changed my
Well,
phone.
give me my
Okay,
wallet there. Okay.
Didn't know where it was.
So, say if it's something particulate, then be a different type of filtering. So, yeah, it's going to depend on what you got. Scott Gold, huh? Yeah, that figures it. Australian company was shipping the gold air to China for processing. Well, no wonder they went bust. Be much better to process it right there. Yep. Yeah, I say that's not a bad idea, although I would imagine there if you're again if you got something like say an assay furnace or something, I'm sure the that's well understood technology, fairly simple. They wouldn't allow them the chemicals to process the ore in Scotland, and therefore the Scots don't get the money. Yep.
Woo-hoo. I shopped like a billionaire.
Oh, goody.
We have enough sponges to last us through the entire apocalypse, dude.
What kind of sponges?
Oh, let me see. I got the yellow kind with the green scrubbies on the back. And I got an emery sponge for scrubbing pots and pans and heavy duty stuff like that. And I got a bunch of those miracle eraser sponges. And I got some tweezers, and I got the little orgone pyramid I wanted, and I got some needles.
She's going crazy over there.
Needles for sewing my crochet together, yarn needles, and a whole pile of yarn thingies, stitch holders.
If you can't trust our government, why trust the Chinese? I don't, Jeff, but on the other hand, I trust the Chinese to be more rational. They want to make money. They want to take control. They don't shoot themselves in the foot 27 times just for the fun of it.
I trust the Chinese because you know exactly what kind of crap they're going to be up to.
It's like Putin. I don't trust him, but I think he's more predictable. You know? Forrest is saying right now a lot of Canadian mining companies are providing capital for expanding gold mines all over Nevada. Wouldn't be surprised. I mean, we are shooting ourselves in the foot every day just for the fun of it, I guess. If it has a microchip, absolutely. Honey bunny. That seems pretty silly to me. What we got there? Yeah, that's where that thing was, but anyhow. Yeah, I wouldn't buy tech from China, not if it's important tech. You know, like process control systems, telecommunication systems. You know? Oh, I'm talking about our government shooting itself in the foot. The Chinese, I don't think, is any more inept than any average government out there, but our government is definitely more inept than the average government. Well, and if nothing else, too, a lot of that money goes to labor and purchases in the United States. You know, things like fuel, tires, all this other stuff, that's bought in the U.S., so that gets recycled direct to the U.S. economy. But yeah. Oh, I find it odd, John, but governments do that all the time.
$11.84.
Yeah, honey bunny, they did some weird stuff. Yeah, shipping containers are mostly cranes, and I think the shipping containers themselves too. Yeah, right, Rock. I said there's a huge financial impact of a mine in an area. Unfortunately, I tend to agree with you, honey bunny, but I will say this. When the U.S. government does bad stuff, it upsets me a lot more. I expect the Chinese government to do bad stuff, not mine. I don't know, Grant. I think I'm going to have to call it a night here. I'm getting pretty tired. Anyone got, if you want to send me a quick picture of that, Grant, if you have it, I can send it to Rock real quick. If not, maybe we'll do it on a subsequent live stream. You're welcome, Grant. Thank you for showing up and getting us some interesting stuff. You can't blame them for that, Forrest. I mean, if we're dumb enough, it's like I said about the illegal migrants years and years ago when they were coming across the United States. They'd work for a couple of weeks and then go back, and then once a year, you know, they file for the earned income tax credit and get a, you know, like $4,000 to, you know, and they're living in Mexico. So that's like a year's wages. It's like, you know, if we're dumb enough to do it, they're smart enough to take advantage of us, you know, and I can't blame them for that, you know, but, you know, that doesn't mean I have to like it. Okay, cool, Grant. Exactly, Rock. When people just work together to do what's mutually advantageous and charge reasonable markups for their stuff, who cares? You know, it's only when people become obnoxious. All righty. Well, I think I'm going to call it a night. Thanks, everybody, for showing up. I appreciate it. I wish y'all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
And we'll be back again for the New Year's Eve live stream, I guess.
New Year's Day, dude.
New Year's Day?
Or
Yeah.
something like that.
Well, let's see.
It's Christmas Day today. I believe New Year's Day is a week away.
I think you're right.
Unless they change
Yes,
it.
31st is a Sunday, so New Year's Eve would be Sunday evening. Yep. So it'll be
Yeah,
a New
we'll
Year's
be
Day.
New Year's Day.
Yeah. All righty. Thank you for showing up for us. I'm glad things are going well. If you ever get in this neck of the woods, let us know. We'd love to see you again, and vice versa, okay? What the heck? The week after from sunny Arizona. All righty. And you take care of your lady there, and hope everything keeps going well for her. And everyone, I say, we're doing fine. We're having a good time. We look forward to an interesting year. So Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.